It's a day which is going to stick with him for a very, very long time. During a recent holiday in Tenerife, Wright bravely performed CPR on a hotel guest who was suffering a cardiac arrest.
Well, sadly, despite his best efforts, Mark was unable to save the man. However, the tragedy has motivated him to sharing the importance of CPR training.
Well, Mark's joining us now, alongside Dr Zoe. We'll show you the way to do it in a bit. First of all, what a horrible thing to go through for you and for the family. You had seen on the plane as you landed, a friend had sent you a CPR.
Yes, no, so my best friend is Charlie Edinburgh, the son of the footballer Justin Edinburgh, who lost his life from a cardiac arrest in 2019. And he started a charity which is convincing people to learn CPR and trying to get defibrillators in as many places as possible where they need it, because he lost his dad to cardiac arrest. And he asked me to be part of a video where I learned some CPR and was convincing others to do the same. And then that day when I landed off the plane, I received the video that I had shot a week before. And literally from going to the airport, getting to the hotel, after watching the video, I got out, I was checking into the hotel with my wife, and this lady, this poor man's wife, came up in a bit of a tiz, you know, and she was panicking and saying her husband's collapsed, and nobody in the hotel responded.
Now, this is a big hotel, no one's trained, no defibrillators, no one had a clue what to do. No,
and the first thing I thought was, I'm in a place where you'd expect people to be trained. There's lifeguards around and stuff, and it wasn't that I don't know if they were trained or not. It was the fact that nobody reacted. Nobody was reacting to this poor lady's cries, and I said to Michelle, I was like, I'm going to have to go. That nobody else is reacting here, and because it was so fresh in my mind, and this is why I think learning CPR is so important. It's having the confidence to know that right, I know what to do. I can do this, so I should go. And the video says, at the start of the video, I say, if you was to ever come across someone in public that suffers from a cardiac arrest, you need to know what to do. And weirdly, this was a week later.
That's so crazy.
But it took me 36 years, or 30, I'm putting a year on my life, 35 years to know how to do CPR. I mean, I learned it when I was a kid briefly, but how it's not in the school curriculum, I just do not know.
And time is of the essence with this, and we're going to demonstrate how to do this properly at the end, because that's always important. Sadly, in this situation, the chap passed away, and it's devastating for him and his family. However, it did buy you time, and his daughter thanked you for that.
Yeah, I did. I mean, no, it's fine, it's fine. I did what I could, but he was there for a while before I got there, and sorry.
No, it's all right. I mean, it is really distressing because, like you said, you've got someone's life under your hand, and, you know, it doesn't get any more real than that. And sometimes it works out. You brought your father back, didn't you, when he was doing the same thing?
He collapsed when we when we lived in New Zealand, and was certainly dead on the carpet. And the whole world went into some sort of sharp focus. I hadn't been trained, but I'd watched stuff on TV. And my mum was running next door, and the whole place was in panic, but I did that. And the thing is also, and you mentioned this when we were chatting just before we came on air, it's knackering. I mean, to do that for half an hour, I mean, thankfully, the ambulance was very quick. They came in, they did the defibrillator thing immediately, and they brought him back. He then went on to have sort of quadruple heart bypass surgery and lived for another 30 years. But if I hadn't been in that night, and I was never in, if I hadn't been in that night, then there's no chance he would have survived for those extra 30 years and seen his grandchildren. The thing with you is that you can only do your best. Thank goodness you were there. You were there, and I don't know whether, probably won't say this, but it's clearly upsetting, but you were told by the family it gave them the opportunity to say goodbye to him.
Yeah, because I kept him... Listen, he wasn't necessarily alive when I was giving CPR, but he was coming back with certain breaths at certain points, which I've later learned is agonal breathing, is that the word?
Yeah.
So it allowed him to then, the ambulance get to him, put him on a life support machine, so he wasn't pronounced dead whilst he was in, under my hands. But I did all I could, that's all you can do in that situation.
And that's what you're continuing to do. So in that instance, the family did get time to say goodbye. But in this instance, what you're doing now is preventing it, hopefully, from happening. You'll save lives today. That will be the legacy from this.
The charity that you're working with, the one that started all of this for you, they are fighting for Justin's Law, and what they're hoping to do is make it mandatory for all health and sports facilities in the UK to be equipped with a defibrillator. I mean, that is the difference between life and death. Often in these gyms and these sports places, people are pushing themselves to their absolute limits.
Yeah, Justin, Charlie's dad, he was with his wife, lovely Kerry, in a gym. He's a very fit man. Was doing the battle ropes and just collapsed. And, you know, people think you're going to see a sign of a cardiac arrest. Heart attacks and cardiac arrest are completely different things. There was no sign. He collapsed and there was no defibrillator. Plus, nobody in this whole gym class, I think there was, you know, several people there, nobody knew how to perform or could recognise that this was a cardiac arrest. And maybe if they did, or they did have a defib, he'd still be here today.
There's a defib outside the studio door. Yeah, so we're very
I just got one from my dad's house. Which was, you know, I had people, the JE3 Foundation around our house the other day teaching my mum and dad CPR because they still don't know, and to get a defib put in the house.
Zoe, the difference between a heart attack and a cardiac arrest?
Yeah, so cardiac arrest is when the heart stops beating. There's an electrical circuit in the heart, and if that goes wrong, the heart stops beating. If the heart stops beating suddenly, no oxygen gets to the brain and somebody just collapses. A heart attack is different. So a heart attack is when the heart muscle isn't getting enough oxygen, usually because one of the coronary arteries that supplies the heart muscle is blocked by a clot. So in that instance, people tend to get pain or other symptoms. That may lead to a cardiac arrest. That might lead to the heart not being able to work properly and the heart stopping because the electrical function goes wrong. But they are different. But if somebody completely just collapses in front of your eyes, goes down, and they don't seem to be breathing, you've got to do CPR. You've got to call 999, get help, and call CPR and do CPR.
Start CPR, which is what you're going to demonstrate.
Yeah. Can you do harm to someone who is having a heart attack but appears to be having a cardiac arrest?
So the advice is, if somebody is unconscious and they appear to be not breathing or not breathing effectively, then you must have a go at CPR. You know, worst case scenario, you might break a rib, but if somebody needs you to do CPR and you don't do it, then they will die.
He complained, my dad complained for months, though, because of the fact that I hurt his chest.
Yeah.
What they said to me when I was training was, you have to obviously check if they're breathing, check the airways and everything first. And I was always thinking, if that ever happened to me and I ever witnessed it, how do you know in a panic if they're breathing? You know they're not breathing. You can completely see it. You know, it takes you seconds to realise. And once you've realised you're not in danger, you just got to start the CPR. But I think with training, it gives you the confidence to do that. You obviously naturally had the confidence with your dad. Okay. But I think, you know, it's a scary moment. But if you're trained, you know what you're about to do is correct.
Well, let's have a look, then.
OK, so we've got two. So I'll take this one here, and we've got one for you to have mark as well. So if somebody's collapsed on the floor, first of all, make sure it's safe, don't injure yourself. And you want to see if you can rouse them. So say, hello, can you hear me? Are you OK? If there's nothing happening there and it appears that they're not breathing, then you want to start doing CPR. Sooner the better. You do need to call for help if you're on your own. So get some help, shout for help. If you've got your phone, call 999, put it on loudspeaker before you get started. Because if somebody's heart has stopped, if they've had a cardiac arrest, you're not going to restart the heart with CPR. What you're doing is you're buying time for that defibrillator to get to you. So you're going to aim for the centre of the chest. So you're going to put the heel of the hand on the centre of the chest, so around between the nipples, somewhere around that. Aim for the centre, don't be too particular. You're going to get your arms nice and straight over the top of the chest so that you've got maximum power, and you're going to push quite hard. You're aiming to go about a third the depth of the chest, which is about 5 to 6 centimetres, and you do it quite quickly as well. So you're
and
aiming
that's
for
why it was so
seconds.
Exhausting for you, because that's further than you think,
It is further than you think, because actually what you're pushing the chest wall, which is compressing the heart, to push the blood around the body. So you need to compress the heart, so it's quite forceful. So we're going to do it now. So you're aiming for about 2 a second, which is quite quick. There are a couple of songs that can help. So Staying Alive, you can do it to the rhythm of that. Or one that I know Mark used, which we learnt in medical school, Nelly the Elephant. Everyone knows Nelly the Elephant. So you can go, Nelly the Elephant, packed a trunk and trunk, and that has you going about the right rate. Singing a song like that also helps just calm you. It helps you bring you back to what you're doing and helps you focus. But like we were discussing before, actually, you'd think you'd be really panicking, but if you've had the training, you know what to do, you become very focused and actually very calm in that moment.
You didn't do any artificial respiration there?
No. So the guidance has changed, partly because if you're doing that and doing it effectively, the person will suck in and out a little bit of air, enough to oxygenate the blood. But in a person who's had cardiac arrest, the main issue here is that the blood's not being pumped around the body rather than the oxygen, and there will be oxygen in the blood to start off with. So the main focus, unless you're someone who's trained and knows how to do it effectively, is doing continuous chest compression.
Well, what we'll do, and it's always very helpful, is we'll put all of this on our app. So, you know, when you get a moment, if you have a cup of tea this afternoon, re-watch it and just get these skills as part of your everyday life, something you know, should you ever be called upon to do it like Mark here, you've got that, and you never know, you might save a life.
And ask your employer, ask your gym to get a defibrillator installed.
Justin's law, it should be a law that every gym and leisure centre should have a defib for sure.
All right, thank you. Well done, you.
Thank you.
Well
Thank
done.
you.